We talk to the legends of the creative and entertainment industries. We talk to those on the rise. Lance Dean Anthony Nielsen asks about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is Outcast Creative, and this is Industry Interviews.
I do like that opening sequence. It is another industry interview at the unusual time of 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. But I have got a couple of people on, so thanks to a few of the regulars for popping in already. Now, today's guest is people say that I'm prolific, and if I can write a lot of scripts in a short space of time, this man can produce and direct several feature films in a relatively short space of time. I kind of live in awe of the amount of work he's knocked out. In addition to that, he's got 90 credits for acting on IMDb, plus probably a couple of others that are still to come out. But mainly we're going to focus on his directing career and his recent feature film work. But with no further ado, it is fantastic. Sean Cronin. Thanks,
Hello.
Sean, for coming in.
Hi there. How you doing?
I see you've got your best bad guy face on today.
Face on, yeah. I've also got my slight hangover face on because I've just done 2 premieres in a row and 2 after parties. So I'm slightly groggy today. I've got a very, very, very large cup of coffee.
We're quite happy to let you indulge in the coffee, so that's no problem. So, guys in the chat, if you do have any questions for Sean as we go along, I'll try and put them to him as and when the convenient moment arrives. So I'm just going to dive in with my standard quick fire questions. Just give us quick answers if you can, just to get a sense of the kind of media culture that you yourself were brought up on and that you like watching now. So the very first film that you saw at the cinema when you were a wee man, can you remember what that was?
Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book. It's funny how for a lot of us it was a Disney film. I do like that. And the last film that you saw at the cinema was one just the other night.
Actually, the last film wasn't Controlled. I went to premiere the night before. It was called One Night at Mill Street, which is the story of Steve Collins, who took Chris Eubank's title on that fateful night. And it was it's a documentary, but very
yeah. I've heard of it.
In a couple of films, and I'm about to direct one that includes Chris Eubank as well. So it was serendipitous. And I asked a couple of very pertinent questions. I dropped a couple of clangers in front of 600 people, which I might go into a bit later on. Quite funny.
All right, we'll come back to Sean Cronin clangers, of which there are many. British actor or actress that you'd most like to work with that people might have heard of?
That's a good one. Someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's obviously, I think he's retired now.
I mean, yeah, every so often he retires and becomes a cobbler, but occasionally will come back out and do an award-winning film again.
I've worked with an awful lot of people that I would love to work with. I've worked with so many people. I've worked with, Tom Cruise. I've worked with I've worked with so many that I would love to have worked with. And I've been very lucky to have actually, worked with many, 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 many household names over the years. So
sure.
But yeah.
Anyone else come to mind before I move on?
I wanted to work with Stephen Graham. We tried to get Stephen Graham for Angel of the North, and I was really keen to work with him. Unfortunately, he was outside our budget, but he was someone I really
fantastic.
And I love working, Lance, with unknowns as well. That they don't have to be famous. I like.
No, indeed. I know you've given many an unknown actor a decent break, which is something I really respect with your work. Can you name me a favourite film? It might even be one that you would consider a guilty pleasure that you watch at least once a year if you get the chance.
I always watch. I'm a great huge Scorsese fan. I'm a Ridley Scott fan, so I probably watch Gladiator every year for the last 5 years. I always watch Goodfellas and Casino about once a year. I watch The Godfather. Those are the kind of, I don't only like gangster film, but they're just so beautifully done, so well done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and Near Dark is another one I've watched about 15 times. One of my favourite.
Oh, that's one of Catherine Bigelow's first movies.
Bigelow's first movie, and she was when she was married to James Cameron at the time, and she split up with him because he went on about this bloody film about a boat, and it took him 12 years to get it financed, and she thought, you'll never get it made, and it went on to be the biggest grossing movie of all time at that time. Yeah. So yeah, Near Dark.
Yeah, he recommended her a load of the cast from Aliens, which hadn't actually yet been released, and so a whole load of them ended up being in it while they were filming it, and then of course Aliens came out. So I think you got 4 of the cast of Aliens.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So last of my quick questions: do you have a favourite television drama series? Could be American, could be British. In the last, let's say, the last 20 years. That you thought, wow, yeah, that's good. I'd like to do something like that one day. For example, for me, one of them would definitely be The Shield, which is my favourite American cop show of all time. British, it would be Our Friends in the North. Would be my sort of American and British choices. Do you have one you've seen?
I mean, there's loads. I mean, I've binge watched so many. I really enjoyed Vikings. It was wonderful, just the production values. It was sort of, TV's now become movie level, and it's I love Narcos because just the way that was done. And the fact that
first 2 seasons of that are phenomenal.
Yeah, the first 2 seasons are great. I mean, they did Narcos Mexico, and once Pablo was out of it, I kind of lost interest. But
but
I've got a period drama that I've been developing for many years called Irongate, which is a beautiful period drama set in the shadow of the Crimean War. And I was trying to get it off the ground years and years ago. Now, what it is with film, you know this, you can't make a film until you've made a film. And getting over those first hurdles to get the first ones out. Now because I've made a few, people are going, oh, actually, I think maybe he can do it, you know. So yeah, so that's a period drama that I would love to make. I want to do that. I love period drama. I love history. I love war stuff, anything that, you know, human interest story, real stuff. I'm not a great fan of the Marvels and the Disneys because it kind of goes over my head. But I like real, true human interest stories is my thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. For me to be engaged in the cinema now, human interest stories. I still like my sci-fi and I still like my fantasy, but it's just coming up with original content in those genres is harder and harder than ever. And just anything with a superhero in a cape, I'm so bored. They're all the same.
I know they are. And I mean, I'm guilty of falling asleep during Mission Impossible at the premiere. I've got about 4 or 5 minutes in the middle, which is just the camera following me, and I bloody missed it, didn't I? I nodded off.
Well, I did like the Mission Impossible. I do like the Mission Impossible films. I have to say, Helen Finch is saying hello, possibly a friend of yours. Hi, Sean. Good to see you.
We've got to say hello.
We've got a whole load of people in the chat chatting away.
I've written Halo.
Got another filmmaker here, Ollie Hollingdale, who's got a little fantasy film he's been working on.
Oh yeah,
yonks. He'll probably have a couple of questions for you as we go along. So you've done 3 features in about the last 12 months. Is that fair?
Yeah, I did Our Kid, which is our kitchen scene drama, which was released, it had its premiere as part of Rain Dance on the 29th of October, came out on the same day, which was hard to get that in a row. I've just done a crazy American hillbilly vampire movie called Bogeyville, which I live on a farm now. I own a farm and I've got about 25 acres of land, and I've had this screenplay for 10 or 12 years. And when I found this house, I thought, bloody hell, this is Bogeyville. And then I've done another one called Angel of the North about a crazy gypsy Irish stroke Newcastle bare knuckle boxer called James McCrory. And literally they were back to back, and there was like 6 weeks on Bogeyville, 4 weeks off, but that wasn't off. That was pre-production for Angel of the North, and then straight into Angel of the North. So I'm a very, very tired teddy bear at the moment.
I can imagine. And you know, again, my thanks for squeezing us in, because I know you got a very full schedule at the best of times. Yeah. So let's talk about those in turn. And I mean, we could do a whole separate stream about your acting career, and we may well do that another time if you fancy coming back. But let's talk about these. Bogeyville's got a number of actors in that I've worked with myself.
Yeah, this is actually, you've got there is an older poster. It's got the wrong cast in it. There is
I think that was like an early concept poster,
that
right?
was an early concept. Well, it's still similar artwork, but it's got the actual actors. It should be there. I don't know why it's not.
We've got.
No, that's not it. No.
Well, on the IMDb though, I don't know if IMDb is correct because we know
this one here, that one there. Can you click on that one there? I can't show your screen. This one. It's you can put a screen up for me if you want me to share it on your computer. Feel free, but I'll carry on. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's similar art. Just the name of the actors are wrong, but some of the actors are still in there.
So you've got 4 of the outcasts in there. There's Alex Reese, Angela Dixon, who of course is on the cover of my novel, Joe Riley, who I know very well, dear friend, Jonathan Hansler, who also is a dear friend and who I've directed a couple of times myself on stage. Yeah. Darren Tassel, I know very well, lovely guy. So quite a few of who I would call the sort of, it's like the indie filmmakers alumni. There's a collective of very proactive, quite passionate actors on that circuit, and I think those people that have been grafting for a few years on that circuit have really started to earn their spurs now. And what you've done is cast some of the best of them in this. So tell us about the movie. What's it about? How did it came about? Because you're inspired by the location of your
I was approached by a guy called Henry P. Gravel, who's in his 70s, lives in Boston, Massachusetts, and he sent me this screenplay about 11 years ago. And I was doing other stuff, and I kept trying to get the money, and finding money for film, as you know, is extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, especially when people rip you off, eh?
Oh no! I mean, I'll talk about distribution and how I circumnavigate, because I'm a filmmaker, and now I'm a distributor as well. So I'll talk about distribution a bit later on about what I can offer to filmmakers.
I'm sure some of the people watching would be very interested to know.
Yeah. So we had found this land. We moved in here about a year ago, and then incredibly, I was making a movie with Peter Andre, a little movie called Last Respects, a little short, very quirky short, directed by a lovely guy called Andrew Hindle. And this is a mad story. And we were shooting in this incredible mansion in Stourbridge. I thought, wow, this place must be worth 25 million. Beautiful. And I particularly liked it because it was lined with red wine. There was a wall of red wine, and it was really expensive, Rioja. And I thought, I've got to meet the guy that owns this. Now, this is crazy what happened. And I had a different financier for Angel of the North, which I'll come on to in a minute. But we were about 40 grand short for the budget on Angel of the North. And I meet the owner, a guy called Phil, in his 60s. He makes ball bearings, very interesting guy. And I jokingly said, "Oh, I'm 40. You're very rich, obviously." I said, "I'm 40 grand short." He said, "Well, give me your bank details." And I thought, yeah, whatever. I texted my bank details, thought nothing more of it. And then I spoke to the actual financier of Angel of the North. I said, "Oh, I might have got your money," thinking I hadn't. Anyway, he said, "No, I don't want another financier. I want to do it myself. I want to be the sole financier." So I've texted my investor. I said, "No, he's not interested." He said, "Check your bank account." And he put an undisclosed amount of money in my account, but it was enough to make 3 features. Or 2 features too.
That's like a dream scenario for any. I
mean, I don't know what it is. He was very enamored with my sort of, my kind of villain persona. He'd seen me in Mission Impossible and Bond, and working with Vinnie Jones, who he loves. And I mean, we're not talking millions, but we're talking enough money to do some great features. I also put some of my own money in as well. And suddenly we're off and running. So I'll just go a little bit about Bogey. I mean, I want to talk about Our Kid in a minute, but Bogeyville got this crazy vampire movie set in Atlanta, Georgia, that kind of area in America. So I immediately had the challenge of creating America in Surrey, which is no mean feat and no cheap exercise. And it's basically there's a trailer park full of the scariest vampires you've ever seen. It's not Twilight. They haven't got little Halloween teeth. They've got, I haven't disclosed any of the makeup yet because the vampires are so unique.
That's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, we've been keeping it. I've shown a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but I haven't shown the creatures because the creatures are incredible. I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but they're not pretty. Yeah, they still wear the same clothes they were turned in 30 years ago. They are smelly, horrible, scary, really scary vampires. Loosely, Jonathan Hansdale plays a pivotal role. He plays Crawford. Crawford guards the trailer park during the day because obviously vampires are vulnerable during daylight hours. And the only reason he guards the trailer park is because my character Madison turned his daughter some 20 or 30 years ago. She was about 10 or 11 years old. She still looks like she's 10 or 11. Although she's a monster, she still remembers him as her dad. She occasionally tries to eat him, but sort of manages to stop herself.
Right, okay.
And she's played by an amazing she's now, I think, 13 now, called Poppy J. Hughes, who's also the lead young lady in Our Kid. And this girl is going to be a huge star. She is just incredible. Jonathan Hansdale plays Jonathan Panslow. He's such a melancholic character. He's such a dude that when he acts, he turns it on like nobody I've ever known. He just goes so far in.
Yeah, I worked with Johnny on stage, and I mean he's got a great presence and a great energy about him, and he's very dedicated.
Yeah, I mean, he's high maintenance, but high maintenance in a good way. You really are nurturing a talent when you're working with Johnny. We've got a guy called Daniel P. Lewis, who's also the other lead in Our Kid, who plays our American sheriff in it. And this guy is someone that's got to be watched out for. Again, an incredible talent. He's gone from he played a horrible serial killer when I first met him in a film. Another film that's on my slate, which is already done as well. I'll tell about I didn't make that. It was already made when it came to me, but I now own it. He plays a horrible serial killer. He plays in Our Kid, he plays a guy called Thomas who's got cerebral palsy, and the performance is just BAFTA winning. He's so good.
We'll come on to Our Kid in a bit. Let's stick with this one for the minute.
And there's Daniel, and the other thing is we've got a guy called Arifin Putra. Now, one of the difficult things in today's oversaturated market, because in the old days, it was a very different beast. There are so many platforms, there's so much content, there's so much choice.
Yeah.
So to be able to make investors' money back is most. This is a true statistic. 95% of films don't get made. Of the 5% that do, 95% don't make any money.
Yeah.
So to be a filmmaker that can guarantee, or not, no one ever guarantee, but can give an investor a chance, you've got to have an exit strategy. Arifin Putra is the Tom Cruise of Indonesia. He is their biggest star. There are 273 million people in Indonesia, and because of him, I've got guaranteed 1,800 cinemas for 21 days. We get paid a month later. His last film, 6.8 million people came to see it, and I get something like £1 a unit for bums on seats. So
that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we've got to do nowadays. You've got to find an exit strategy, because most films are vanity projects and they just don't make money. So I have this great investor, but I have a duty of care to that investor to make his money back, and then he'll reinvest. But you can't, if you blow his money or blow any investor's money and then don't make it back, then you're not making any more films. So it's a very, very difficult business, as we know. But Bogeyville, it's great. It's you've never seen anything like this before. I mean, the closest, I'll give you a little bit, there's 30 Days of Night are the closest to our vampires. They're slightly similar.
Okay.
Again, they're different. They're different again. They're they'll kind of wear dungarees, and they are just horrific. They really, really are. So
Helen Finch is asking, when do you think the movie's going to be out?
Well, we were going to release it at Halloween, so I was going hell for leather to get post done, and it was an impossible task. We didn't wrap really till July by the time we finished pickups.
Right.
And then a huge horror authority, a guy called David Bond. If you look him up, he's a leading authority in horror. He's a Canadian guy, and he said, "Sean, whatever you do not release your movie at Halloween, because all the big studios just had Exorcist 233 out.
Yeah.
All the big studios release their horror movies at Halloween." He said, "When you release a horror movie, Valentine's Day. So Bogeyville is coming out on Valentine's Day 2024.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually, because that gives people an alternative film to watch as opposed to all the kind of like schlock, you know, loving, you know, whatever. Love
and
this.
Also, it's a quiet period of time. A lot of stuff is not coming out then. A lot of people are just coming back to work after the Christmas break. So, and also there is so much post-production to do on this. It's not, you know, there's an awful lot of special effects. There's a lot going on. So there's a lot.
No doubt you'll be having some sort of red carpet job.
I mean, I always do a premiere. I mean, for my film, I think my second feature. Well, we did one for 11. We did my war film 11, which was my first full feature that I directed. We did I think the Picture House Central, again sold out, 600 people. We did Give Them Wings. We did The View, Leicester Square, and absolutely packed it, because I've got, you know, love me or hate me. People I've got quite a big following. People like to come and hate me in person. Do you know what I mean?
It's if you've got a following. I mean, I remember when we premiered The Journey, I sold the tickets out within 48 hours.
Wow.
It was you know, it was. So there's always people that want to come and see you, and some of them want to come and see you fail, and that's very true. Unfortunately, it's like crabs. Like crabs.
Manage your haters, but I love my haters. You know,
I personally, for me, when I see an indie person doing well, for me, it's a win for our team. You know, it's like I said this to Dan Stiles, who I interviewed day before yesterday, and he's doing really great in the world of stunts and runs ID drama and all that kind of thing. And every time I see his name on the credits, I say, Dan, I'm proud. It's like it's a win for the independent.
Yeah, I've known Dan for many years, and we did a little short film with him, German short, a few years ago, Escape to Gossow, and he was just starting out then. And then I worked with him did a film called Kill Kane with Vinnie Jones. I played Kane, the main villain in that.
I remember that.
And he was doing the stunts on that, and he's really come a long way. He's
that's right. Yeah, I forgot he was on.
You know how to set up.
So pretty much right after Boogieville, you did Our Kid, which is
no, Our Kid was before Bogeyville. It's
okay.
Well, Bogey, not Boogie. And I'll tell you why it's Bogeyville. It's weird because people think it's bogies over here. In America, it's the bogeyman. He's the bogeyman, but also it's my character Madison, who's the head vampire, is a big Humphrey Bogart fan, which is why it's called Bogeyville. And when you watch the film, you'll get that. So Our Kid was produced and starred and written by Daniel P. Lewis.
Yeah.
And I met Daniel playing his father. I'm the reason he turned into a serial killer in Billy Smith, which is a great film as well. That's gonna be out. I mean, it's ready now. That'll be out very shortly. So there he is. I mean, you see him as the sheriff in Bogeyville. He looks totally different, and here he is. Now, this film is dedicated to the late Paul Thomas Riley, who had cerebral palsy and sadly left this mortal coil aged 15. And this is a tribute to him. Also a tribute to Jake Abraham, who was in the film, who sadly died only a few weeks ago. And also the investor's father was dedicated to him as well. So, but this, this is a bit like Give Them Wings. I don't know if anyone knows Give Them Wings, but it was about Paul Hodgson, who was born with childhood meningitis. So it's a very similar narrative, this, but it's got a lot of household names. It's got Ricky Tomlinson, Louis Emery, Mark Morahan, Leanne Best, John McCardle, Conor McIntyre. These are all big English.
I mean, looking at the trailer for this, I haven't seen the full film yet, but it does look a lot more polished. And I guess, as with any director, you're learning and improving with every film that you do. And this looks like a step up.
Ironically, it was a much lower budget than Give Them Wings, but it's you just hone your skills. I mean, I've made so many films now. I can't even lost count, including the shorts, and I've directed hundreds of commercials and music videos and stuff. And the first films I did, I wouldn't show anybody now. But when I did them, I go, "This is great." And then you look back at it 10 years later, and you go, "That's actually really shit." but you're so invested in it when you do it, you don't realize. But so. I've worked with the DOP on this. Daniel Patrick Vaughan is just incredible. He's just he just cares so much about the image, and he also comes with £250,000 worth of the best possible kit. He's got the latest red Monstro and the best lenses and steady cam rigs and drones and cranes. He's got everything. And
how do you find, because you're the director on here, but you have worked as a DOP before. How do you find, in terms of having juggled those hats in the past and being quite a strong personality on set?
It's hard. It's like,
can you rein yourself in from not telling the DOP to do every shot and let him bring his creativity to the table?
Well, the weird thing was, like, we hadn't worked before together.
Yeah.
And there was one shot where we're trying to get the wonderful Sharon Bayat, who is our leading, the mother, our leading lady, or one of the, well, she basically is the lead, apart from Poppy and Dan and Connor. And I wanted this continuous shot of her emotional breakdown. And we moved the camera in the middle of it, and we just missed this expression where she goes from, she knows she's going to die, and she goes from this desperation and this, awful sadness to listening to her children and her husband laughing and joking in the kitchen because they don't know that she's going to die yet. And you suddenly see this epiphany where she suddenly realizes that the family's going to be all right with or without her. I'm getting goosebumps and tears welling now when I talk about it. Because we had to follow her, and the camera jolted just at the point when the epiphany came, and I'm like, give me the camera, and because I've been doing it for a lot longer than him, but and then we had a little, we locked horns, and then we went outside, had a bit of fisticuffs, and then I learned not to change lanes, and he is a brilliant DOP, and I was totally wrong to have doubted him for that moment. And that's when I realized that when I go on set, because I'm a director, I go on set as an actor, I will suggest things that my character might do this or do that, but I'm very much an actor. It's not my job. It's their baby, and I will take it from them. Same with the DOP. I give him, his job is to make my vision a reality. My job is to make the writer's vision a reality, and we're all doing the same job. So we're doing film after film after film together. I won't work with anybody else now. And occasionally he's very alpha, so occasionally he might suggest something. For example, when I'm directing Bogeyville, I've got these full sclera black contact lenses, so I can't see. I've got these teeth in, which are long, great, big, horrible, broken, crusty teeth, so I can't speak. So I can't see and I can't speak, right? So, and I'm trying to direct. And there was times when we were on the mound on the land where we got all the vampires coming out. And he did in those instances kind of take over. I said, look, I can't talk. I said, Dan, just, obviously I briefed the actors before on how I wanted them to be, but,
sure.
But as far as actually all the positioning and the action that happens, he's very, very talented. I mean, he can do anything. So, yeah, but it's hard. It is hard not changing lanes. But I've learned not to. I've learned to bite my lip. And with anything, if there's ever a discrepancy on set, you just you tap him on the shoulder. We say butterfly. That's our code word. We go out the back and we'll discuss.
That's a good system to avoid kind of having heated blow-ups.
Yeah, we had a couple of times with actors when we first started working together, and it puts them off. So butterfly. We go around the back, we have a little chat, and then we come out as.
You might have to change that code word after this interview, but. But I think that's a good system. You got to work with Ricky Tomlinson, who of course is a bit of a British institution from the royal family, the TV show, not the actual royal family for any Americans watching. And I met Ricky when I did the Hillsborough play up in Liverpool it's going back a while now, but I think it was 97, maybe 98. And he was tremendously supportive. He came to see the play and got us a lot of publicity. And I always thought I would have worked with him by now. John McArdle actually was also at that at the premiere of the play, and you've got both of them here. How was it like working with Ricky? How was he?
Well, I mean, we wanted Ricky to play a much bigger role, but he's 84 now.
God, he's looking good for 84. He's
84. He was at the Liverpool premiere. So he was going to play John McArdle's role, which is the granddad. Right. It's a big role, but it was just probably a little bit too much for Ricky. We've been shooting for like 16, 17 days, and his lovely wife Rita, who looks after him, she won't allow him to overstretch himself. It's at the moment we're doing a lot of promo, and of course, you know, This Morning wants him, Steph's Packed Lunch, all these daytime TV and morning television, they want him. But transporting him from Liverpool, bringing him down at 84 years old, sticking him in hotels, he just can't do it. He's doing, bless him, he's doing Steph's Packed Lunch for us, and he's doing a few radio interviews. He's also a very political animal.
Yeah, he is. He's very, very much about social injustice and the working class.
You know, I mean, obviously, you touched on Hillsborough earlier on, but I mean, what happened there is horrendous. And the Sun wanted to interview him, and it's like a no-no because the Sun's blamed the fans for what went on.
Yeah,
you know,
it still doesn't sell well in Liverpool even.
No, it
today.
doesn't sell at all. It's Liverpool. The Sun is banned from Merseyside. It's not allowed.
Yeah, basically. An
awful lot of hate there. So a lot of the interviews he won't do because they are of the affiliation. A lot that he will do. And obviously he's got he's got a very funny role. But what's so funny about Ricky is you never get the same lines out of him twice. Never. He's always ad-libbing. And this is it was going to be a 12. It's now a 15. But, you know, I say, Ricky, please try not to swear too much. And I'm not even going to say some of the stuff that he said. But he'd go, effing, dang it, and just totally inappropriate. I go, no, Ricky, you can't say that. He goes, all right, I'll try again. And then he'd do it again, and it'd be a different load of swear words. I go, no, Ricky, you can't do that. So eventually we got a couple of clean takes out of him. But he is just the funniest guy. He's such a, I mean, you wouldn't believe he's 84. He's the life and soul of the set. He's just hilarious and a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And I'm deeply honoured to work with him. And all the cast, the whole cast on this were just, and Daniel pulled most of these together. Daniel's so prolific and you know, he's a proper scouser, so he knows everybody in Liverpool. You know, he found Connor, Sharon, he got John McCardle. He put an amazing cast together.
Yeah, you had Leanne Best in there as well.
Best in there. Well, she's got, it's not a huge role, but it's a pivotal role. And she is such a talent. I mean, my God. I mean, I didn't need to direct this film. They just brought it. I mean, what I always try and do, especially with these kind of kitchen sink dramas and emotional things, I just let the actors breathe.
Yeah, do their thing.
There's a lot of subtext in there. There's one scene where young Laura, played by Poppy J. Hughes. The mother's died. She's fallen out with her dad because she's been bunking off school because she's lost her mum. She loves her disabled brother. And all she says, as she goes out of the house, she looks at her brother and goes, "See you later, our kid." That's all she says. But in the subtext, I needed to see she's angry with her father, she's lost her mother, and she loves her brother. And it's in the subtext. But all she says is, "See you later, our kid." Took about 4 or 5 takes, and you can just see it in her eyes. The whole narrative is in the subtext. It's in her eyes. And getting those kind of emotional performances out of people is what I really try and do. Same with Daniel Watson, who played Paul Hodgson, Give Them Wings. I mean, this guy, incredible. We had Jamie Bell was going to play that character.
This is the girl you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
From
she's the lead vampire. You wait till you see her in Bogeyville. She is incredible.
So this is Poppy
J. Hughes.
Okay, so casting directors and independent filmmakers, I will also say, if you need a good child female actress.
She's a proper scout, but she was doing an accent in Bogeyville. I mean, originally her character was going to be a boy. So we've got Daniel, who in the story plays Thomas, is probably 25, 30 in the story, cerebral palsy. It was going to be his younger brother, but we just and Poppy was going to be the friend, and she came along and she smashed that audition, and then we kept auditioning for the lead boy, and then halfway through the cycle, and we kept bringing her back to act alongside them for their self tapes, and I just said, or both of us, all of us went, hang on a minute, let's make it a girl, and we swapped it, and she's now the lead, and she ends up playing for Liverpool ladies football team. She gets a trial. Well, loosely based on the truth. It's all loosely based on the truth. And she is just, when I saw her at tape, I mean, I first of all saw it on my phone. I thought, oh yeah, she's good. I got home and put it on the big computer, and I just thought, I was like, wow, this kid, she's got no filter. She's quite inappropriate for an 11-year-old.
Sometimes that can be a good thing.
But she's just hilariously funny, and just I've never seen such confidence in a young lady. You know.
Let me take you back a bit, just again for the benefit of filmmakers watching, and I know there's a couple, there's a few actors too. Daniel, who's depicted here, plays the lead role in Our Kid, which I'm guessing is an actor who wrote the script for himself for that role to play.
Yeah.
Talk me through the process of this script falling in your lap, and from it going from that stage to you deciding it's a script you want to make.
So the lady was Zara Abraham said, contacted me, said, we're looking for someone to play his hillbilly dad. So I put a wife beater on, in Billy Smith, put a wife beater on, covered it in crap, stood out by the bins and talked like this, you know, and he loved it. He loved the tape. I went up and I met him, and he shaved his head here. He's covered in tattoos anyway, and he's grown this big beard, and he was just like this Charles Manson type crazy serial killer. And when I talked to him normally, he's such a nice guy, and then he'd switch into this character, a bit like Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York, which is why I talked about Daniel Day-Lewis. Something, we've got Daniel P. Day. And I just thought, this guy is a talent. And anyway, and he made this short film called Thomas, which is a 5 or 6 minute short, based on Paul, and we call him Paul Bright Eyes Thomas Riley, who's the boy that died. And he sent me this screen. He said, Sean, I really like working with you. You know, really easy going, easy to work with. Would you consider? And he'd seen Give Them Wings. He said, would you consider directing it? And I read the screenplay, and I just fell in love. It's just like, wow. And he got the finance. I mean, it was peanut, and we shot it for probably about 80 grand now, because we spent quite a lot of money on post and a lot of money on marketing. But with the actual budget, it was about 40 grand, which is nothing. And Give Them Wings.
That was the budget. That was the budget for Our Kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking like Journey types.
I mean, Give Them Wings is 200 grand. You know,
right.
So, but he pulled every favourite. And remember, this guy was producing this film. He was the main producer,
right,
the writer, and the lead actor. So he's switching from going, you know, people going, where are my sandwiches, into this incredible, demanding role. And he studied it so. I mean, the way that when you watch it, the way that he plays someone with cerebral palsy, and it's quite a taboo subject to someone, you know. Some people go, well, you need to employ a disabled person, but he wanted to do it because it was his cousin and it was so close to his heart. And switching between his producer role, and you're putting out fires, and the smoke alarms are going off, and someone's missed their train, and you know someone's got the wrong costume. You know what it's like making movies, especially on this kind of budget. And to see him switch from that, and it was very difficult for him. There were some moments when I could see he was going to melt down, and so Colin and myself tried to take as much of that off him as possible. But just an amazing script, and he's just so tenacious, and he just managed to get all these people on board. Liverpool's a much more close-knit community as well. People are very friendly up there.
Very much so, and it's very family orientated.
Everybody knows everybody, and the fact that he could bring all of these actors on. I mean, Conor McIntyre, who plays the father, what a lovely man. He's also an artist, Conor, but you know, the performance he brought, Sharon Byer, I mean, she's not very well known, and she should be. She's just the performance.
I think I met her when I was up there also, because that name really rings a bell, and I just feel like I was introduced to her.
Yes, every time I watch it, I get goosebumps. The great thing about the premieres, everyone was laughing in the right spot. They were crying. It's a comedy drama. So there's a lot of light moments in it, but there's a lot of very, very dark moments, and the dark moments are what really happened. And it's
sure.
You know, it's an amazing experience, and probably one of the best casts I've ever worked with. Having said that, I worked with Bill Fellows and on Give Them Wings, and Toya Wilcox was in Give Them Wings as well. So
I do like Bill Fellows. He's
he's solid.
Great guy. Yeah,
because Paul Hodgson's dad in the film was a real miserable git, and the way that Bill plays him, he's just an outstanding actor, and a very lovely man as well. Very lovely guy.
Massively underrated. Couple of quick questions for you here before we move on. A couple from David Macy. How much influence do writers have when you direct someone else's work? So I guess what he's kind of asking is, if you're directing a script written by someone else, does the writer still manage to keep it their vision? Is it being?
It's weird. There's an old adage that says never allow the writer on set. But I don't believe in that. So I mean, it was Daniel's story. He didn't interfere with my directing at all. He didn't say, "Oh, I didn't want it like that. I want it like that." He knew that I could get those performances out of the actors, and there was never any question. In fact, he had very little involvement because he knew I had it handled. On The Angel of the North, a guy called Cy Biggs wrote it. And when I first got the screenplay, it was 270 pages long. I said, "You need to lose about 130 of those." And I've given him the co-director credit. I mean, he was full of exposition. He's talking about the history of bare knuckle boxing. Also, you don't have to understand that a screenplay is a roadmap. So if it doesn't say, the referee wearing a bow tie, 40s with a bald head, and there was none of that in the screenplay. So we were really struggling to, but he's learned so much, and now he's writing a new film, and he knows how to format screenplays correctly. Henry P. Gravel, 74, wanted to come over and script supervise, but some of these people haven't made films before. But Daniel P. Lewis, he knows what's going on, but Cy and Henry, for both of them, it was a baptism of fire. So I said, "Dude, we're up at 6, mate. We're shooting till 9 or 10 at night." Henry would get out of bed about 11, come on set, like sit behind the monitor for 10 minutes, go, "He's got the wrong American. That hat's not right, man." And then he'd go back to bed. And I said, dude, because he's got quite a lot of health problems. I said, a script supervisor is on that monitor every second of every shot, making sure that we don't miss anything. So we didn't have a script supervisor on Bogeyville, and we're now struggling to. I mean, it's all there, but the edit is a challenge. It really is.
It's always good if you've got, even on a low budget film, a continuity / supervisor / part wardrobe / someone who's covering all those bases.
Yeah, I mean,
how big was the crew? How big was the crew on Bogeyville and then on our kid on the daily?
Our kid, we had a cast of about 10 or 12 principals, main actors, and
all your crew
our crew on our kid were mostly entry level on very, very low wages.
But what was the size? What was the size of the crew?
Probably about 15 crew on our kid and 10 to 12 cast. There were some days when we had a lot of extras and stuff in, and we had a big crowd scene with football crowds. We had so much help. We've got the Tranmere Rovers. We've got a guy called Mark Pelios, who was the chairman of the FAs behind the film. He now owns Tranmere Rovers. We've got the Liverpool ladies football team behind it. So there's an awful lot of love on our kid, a lot of favours and
sure.
But I've now made it my priority to make this a job. So everybody that works for me gets paid. It won't all be a fortune, but the actors get equity minimum. We agree a decent wage for all the crew. They get proper money, and they walk away with a few thousand quid at the end. They can pay their rent, they can pay their bills, they can live. So I made that decision probably 5 or 6 years ago that I've got to make it. It's a job, because you can't. A lot of people I know that've got day jobs. I do this full time. I don't do anything else.
Sure.
And I make a living out of it, and now becoming quite a good living out of it. But I made that decision.
Would you say this statement is true? Because I know how I feel about it. The most important person on a set, and I often put this as a question to young filmmakers to see what they answer, is the caterer.
Yeah, well, one of the things, I mean, you were asking about the size of the crew. Bogeyville, we probably had between 50 and 70 cast and crew. Angel of the North, we were getting close to 200. So I'm managing 200 people and feeding them. An army marches on its stomach.
Yeah.
This is the only industry that you have to feed people. You work in a bank, you go out at lunch and you have you buy your own lunch. But because you're in these obscure locations, you're working crazy hours. You have to fuel them, but you can lose so much money on catering. So being creative with it. I mean, I get catering budget for film. They want 30 grand, 40 grand to feed them for 30 days. But, luckily, my girlfriend in the farm, we've got a great big kitchen, and we did a lot of the catering here to keep the price down. Angel of the North was a nightmare. We were literally, finding restaurants, because we had 47 locations.
Right.
47 locations in 35 days was insane. 200 cast on a budget of 200 grand. It was almost impossible. I mean,
striking good deals with pubs is always I've found.
Yeah, we did an awful lot of that.
Can you do 20 or 30 of us for £10 a head? That kind of thing.
That's what we were doing. And you have to feed people properly, otherwise they revolt. You know what I mean?
I do think it's, even on a low budget film, if you're going to spend money anywhere, spend it on
the budget of Bogeyville's close to 300, possibly getting on to 400k budget, and some as well. I mean, there's still more to go. We've got a lot of special effects. There's quite a lot of money going on post. You've got an amazing composer doing a score. So we're getting close to $500,000 now.
Here's a quick question for you, which I'm not sure there is a difference from a filmmaker's perspective. What's the difference between a screenplay and a script? I don't think there is. It's just two different terminologies, isn't it? Screenplay was often,
I mean, a screenplay really is that roadmap. Everything on that screenplay is for the team to be able to bring it to life. I mean, Angel of the North was adapted from a novel called What's the Story, James McCrory, and that's why Cy find it very hard to kill his darlings, because he was explaining the whole history of bare knuckle boxing. I said, you can't show it. If you can't say it with dialogue, or you can't show it, it can't be there. You've got to be, and we literally cut 160 pages. I've cut it down to 210 or 212.
What was the name of the novel again?
What's the Story, James McCrory. And the story of the craziest bare knuckle fighter you will ever meet. So Bogeyville was, as I was saying, it was a baptism of fire for those guys that hadn't been on set before. I mean, Cy, when he came on, because he's producing, he's managing all the payments, and he's going, oh my God, I can't, and he's got 200 people to pay. And he's like, because I didn't think it would be like that, So I said, mate, if people think filmmaking is easy, I've done many jobs. I've owned nightclubs. I've toured the world in rock bands. I've acted on over 100 movies. Directing, producing films is the hardest thing I've ever done. Every time I do one, it nearly kills me. I always think at the end of this film, I'm going into dog walking.
There's always that moment when you finish. And you think, why did I do this? That's it. I'm not doing another one. I've been there so many times, and I've just said I've directed my last play, apart from if I can do Magnificent Seven at some point.
I want to do that. I love that. That's a fantastic.
We've got to do it. The script's so tight.
I'll go back to catering just for 1 second.
Yeah.
So the budget, of Angel of the North is probably the catering budget on Mission Impossible for a week. Because you go on these big movie sets and the level of catering. I was on 6 weeks. I was on Mission Impossible. You got a menu of 10 choices. It's incredible. So indie filmmaking and big studio, it's so many worlds apart. It's a very difficult beast.
You got bitten by a spider during filmmaking of Mission.
So
that's a funny story.
I was up for a much bigger role in Mission Impossible. It was £250,000. No, 290 grand. I was having a big fight with Tom Cruise on the top of the Vienna Opera House, but I had this ridiculous cokehead fucking agent. I won't mention his name. Excuse my language, but and there was so I had to go into Leavesden for the big fight with Tom for the rehearsal on the Monday, and I got the part on the Wednesday before, and my agent had forgot to send me the tape of the fight that I had to learn, and he'd gone off on a 3-day bender, was off the radar. So I walked up on the Monday morning. They said, "Oh, I hope you've learned the tape." I said, "What tape?" So I didn't get that role, and I was mortified. I was gutted. I could have bought a house. I was so.
That's a fireable offence for.
I fired him immediately, but then I sat there sulking for about 2 weeks, and I got the part, and then I got a call from actual Chris McQuarrie. He said, "Sean, you're such an evil-looking bastard. We want you in the film anyway." And I got another role, and I think I got about 80 grand, 100 grand for it, so it wasn't bad. Actually, it's a more because the role that they couldn't find anybody good enough to do this fight, so it actually ended up being the stunt coordinator that had the fight in the Gods, the Vienna Opera House, and I got a thing where Simon Pegg stole my face. I was there.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Every day for 6 weeks, I was there. I wasn't working every day, but I was booked for 6 weeks. I was picked up in a bloody luxury car, delivered to staying in a 5-star hotel. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Anyway, day 3, I'm walking through a disused power station in Southampton, and it's full of spiders' webs. And I've walked through this spider's web, and I've gone like that, whatever. And I'm wearing this kind of really posh suit. And later on that day, I noticed I had a little spot on my arm. I thought, oh, it's a zit. I tried to squeeze it. I thought, wow, it really fucking hurts. Excuse my language. And the next day, it was like this. 3 days later, my entire arm up to there was double in size and black. And it was a false widow spider had bitten me. And we didn't realise what it was until it had become quite serious. So I rushed to hospital, put on an intravenous antibiotic drip. They said, Sean, you can't go to work, mate. If you're not careful, you're going to lose your arm. I thought, it's okay. I'll get a robot arm. I'm a villain. But anyway, so the next day was my main scenes with Tom Cruise. And they go, you can't work. You're going to lose your arm. I said, I'm going to fucking work. Fill me full of drugs. I'm going to work, man. So they left me in hospital overnight on this drip, intravenous drip. And the next morning I've gone in, and Tom's gone, Sean! I said, what? He goes, you're in the wrong movie. You should be in Spider-Man. And you know what? I mean, I'll just touch on working with Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise gets a lot of bad press. He's got an agency that manages his 50,000 plus haters. And the more successful you are, the more haters you get. It's just the nature of the beast.
I've heard nothing but good things.
He was amazing. He was
people that have worked with him superbly. I mean, he's professional and he demands professionalism. But like when he had that outburst on set for the COVID thing, I was, regardless of what people may think about the pandemic, in terms of what the risks were for him at the time, I was completely
down. It's
I was on his side completely.
It's a $300 million movie. You can't mess about with that shit.
And they were the first one going back to work, so I got why he was angry. I remember a lot of people supported him.
He was so nice to me. He came to all the cast and crew screenings, obviously the premiere. The other thing was a little funny thing. I was complaining there was no proper espresso coffee on the catering, on the craft. They did have it at other places around the studio, but on the actual craft table, there was only filter coffee. I said, Tom, the coffee's lousy, man. He said, oh, God, I'm so sorry, Sean. The next morning, outside my trailer, I had my own Italian espresso coffee stand outside my trailer. Hey, is the coffee okay now, Sean? He was, honestly, it was nice, very, very funny.
That's got to be a story in his biography one day, I reckon.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. Apart from the spider bite, I mean, I had to go back to hospital 22 times. It was quite. I really did nearly lose my arm. So it was. Scars somewhere.
Let's talk about Angel of the North a little bit. Moving on. So this is the film that you've just finished shooting, and actually, before we talk about it, something that we should do is we should say just a shout out to our late friend, as a friend of both of ours, Dave Courtney, because you filmed part of this at Dave's house in Camelot only a few days before he passed away. I wrote the screenplay for Dave's first novel. I hadn't seen him since he had a big 50th or 55th birthday party. You might have even been there. It might have been before.
I only met Dave for the first time on this. It was okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what happened with this is, I knew him. We knew each other on social media. We never met.
Yeah.
And, so there was a guy that was meant to play the character called Jason Young, who is he fought James McCrory twice, and suddenly this guy got COVID the day before the shoot. I'm like, Christ, what are we going to do? And ironically, I shot the opening scene of this film. This set in America, just the opening of it, and it's set in Arizona. And I shot this on my land as well. And I had anyway, so Jason Young, the guy that was going to play Jason Young, couldn't do it. So I stepped in because I look a bit like him, although I renamed him Jason Old because I get my bus pass next year. I'm getting on a bit. But
right.
And I renamed, so I had to step up and suddenly do this big bare knuckle fight scene against a native Red Indian. On my land, and then the second fight that he had actually happened in Dave Courtney's house about 10 years ago, and it's actually Brendan, who was Dave's sort of assistant who looks after Camelot.
Yeah, I know Brendan pretty well. Haven't seen him for a long time, but we have been talking on Facebook.
And he reached out to me. He said, Sean, why don't you reenact the fight here? And then it's historically correct. And so we've rocked up. I'm again doing this another bare knuckle fight. I'm trying to direct. I thought I'll be all right because I used to box many, many, many years ago. And I thought, yeah, I can do it within 30 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucking knackered. But and it's really funny. So Dave Courtney's there. Dave Courtney's there, and jokingly, halfway through the wide of the bare knuckle fight, he's thrown a knuckle duster into the ring, and caused a great big laugh. Not during the actual take, but during a thing. And then there's a scene that I get knocked out, and obviously you've got to shoot it multiple times. So I'm doing the same tumble enough times, unbelievable amount of times. And on the last one, I've gone back and he's hit me in the back of the head. Only a little friendly dig, boom, with his knuckle duster, and my head starts going. And the weird thing was, he seemed in the highest of spirits. He really enjoyed having us there. There was probably 100 people there on that day. Bless him. Him and Brendan provided all the extras. He said, no, you give us a fee for the location and we'll give you 68 extras, which he did. The only thing is he's got a bar there that's open all the time. So the extras, and I don't allow alcohol on set, but you don't argue with Dave Courtney and what he does. So yeah, he basically, by the end of that day, all the extras were pissed out of their heads. They were very well behaved, but they were quite difficult to control. There were some proper gangster faces in there. Dave was lovely. I had a load of drinks with him afterwards, and we were chatting till 3 or 4 in the morning. And and he gets a lot of bad press, Dave, but he was a lovely, courteous, friendly, complete gentleman. I really enjoyed it, and I was absolutely mortified when I heard. I thought that perhaps there's something untoward, because the police were saying that he was a pillow found over his face and there was been shot, and then he was saying he killed himself. So there's still a bit of mystery about what happened. And what's strange is he didn't have a huge funeral. He had a very, very small private one.
Yeah.
I would have thought there had been a great big one with all hundreds of mates, because he had such an enormous following.
That seemed very out of character for him, I have to say. And also I found it, he had a party booked at his house on the 28th of October, a big sort of Halloween affair with DJs and all sorts. And I thought, surely, after the party, perhaps, because he loved a party, he loved a party.
He had events, he had, sort of meet and greet events, but I don't know. I haven't actually spoken to Brendan. I've kind of left him alone. My stunt coordinator on Angel of the North, Spencer Collins, was a very, very good friend. It's actually, again, you've got old posters again. It's Angel of the North.
Hey, dude, I'm just putting up what's on IMDb.
I know. The problem is, I'm just about to put all of that stuff in order. We've been so busy. Literally.
So it's now called Angel of the North single.
Yeah, because originally it was two people's stories. It was James McCory and his main adversary, Dave Radford, who he fought many times. Stephen Graham was going to play Dave Radford, but we ended up getting Steve Collins to play Dave Radford. Steve Collins, as you know, is the world boxing Irish, the Celtic warrior, the Irish world champion boxer that took Eubank's title, and he looks like Dave Radford. And having him on set, and the guy that plays James McCory is also a world champion boxer called John Duddy, and he was just an incredible. It was weird because James McCory, the real James McCory, came to set a couple of times, and they were the spitting image of each other. It was incredible. And John Duddy, what a lovely man he is. He lives in New York, very, very Irish, Northern Irish, a really, really thick Irish accent. But he had to put on a slight Newcastle lilt, because although James McCory, his heritage is Irish, he was brought his family from Omagh. He was actually born in Newcastle, and he's got a proper, really strong, and you can understand a word he says. And I've had to say,
is this film, in summary, is it going to be kind of the Rocky of the bare knuckle boxing gypsy world? Is that a fair?
Kind of that. It was difficult for Cy. Cy's actually pictured here in our picture that you've used for the for the stream. Cy's on the right hand side there. It was very hard for Cy to let go of some of the details. I think there's something like 11 fights in this film. 11.
Right.
So it's not about the big build up to the big fight. It's much more about James McCory's struggle with drugs, struggle with bipolar, his personality disorders, struggle with alcohol. So it's not not all fights are in the ring, and this is very much about him coming to terms. His wife left him. He's going out and getting beaten up, and he's getting paid 200 quid or 300 quid, and coming back with his face completely destroyed. So of course she didn't want him, and this is very, it's not 100% true story, but it's probably 80% what really happened. But it was very hard getting Cy to let go of the, all the tiny little details. But he was wearing green shorts on this day. I said, it doesn't matter what colour his shorts are. It's a story. It's about the story.
Yeah. So, how did you come to cast John Duddy? Because he's a relative unknown, I would say. He's done a few things in Ireland. But...
we've got three James McCorrys in this. We've got James McCorry at 14. We've got James McCorry in his 20s, played by a guy called Thomas Dennis. Thomas Dennis was the lead in Warhorse in the West End for 3 years.
Okay.
Amazing actor. Looks very similar to John Duddy, but obviously a lot younger. John's sort of 40-ish now. Daniel P. Lewis was actually up for this role. I took Daniel up to Newcastle to meet James McCorry, I knew that Daniel could do it, because Daniel comes from a fighting background, and he's also had struggles with alcohol, drugs, bipolar. So it was him. There's another guy called John Connor who was in a thing called Cardboard Gangsters, who was also great. But John Duddy, as he looks now, looks almost identical. He's a great friend of Raymond, who was the financier on it, and he lives out there in New York, and they were very good friends. And it just seemed like the right thing to do. And looking back now, I don't think anybody else could have done it as well as John did it. He was just such a nice guy, man.
For the benefit of actors watching, you're going up for a role where you're going to be doing, you've got to do physical fighting. Is part of the audition process, as you see it as a director? Because I think if I was in your shoes and I was casting this film, I'd want to see not someone just deliver some lines, but I'd want to see physically what they could do. They might not be trained as a boxer yet, but that would obviously be part of the
most of the people in this were real fighters.
Right.
In fact, all of them pretty much.
But in terms of John, did he have that background? Did he have any background in martial arts or anything? Or
no. But John is if you Google him, he is a world champion boxer. He packed Madison Square Garden. He did a boxing arena there. I mean, he wasn't as big a fighter as Steve Collins, but he is a very accomplished boxer.
We're talking about the person that's on the screen now.
Yeah, John Duddy is a boxer.
So he's a boxer who's kind of turned to acting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He's a proper boxer. I mean, funny thing is, so I fought him at Dave Courtney's house, and and I don't know what, I broke 3 ribs on that fight. So I can't sleep on this side. I thought they were just bruised, but I went for an X-ray, and there was a couple of hairline fractures in them.
I never forget Dave Courtney's story about the time he did boxing for a bit, and he went and did one match. He thought he was done for the day, and he went and had a hot dog and a pint, and then they said, "No, you're doing another match now." And as soon as he got a hit, he puked up all over the guy. He was hot dog bits and beer everywhere. So, yeah. In terms of shooting the fight scenes, you're working with real fighters. In terms of scripting that, tell us as a director how that works, what rehearsals were involved, how much time you had.
Well, yeah, I mean, what we had to do is, again, because Cy is so, I won't say precious, but so concerned about making it as real as possible.
Yeah, he wants it to look right.
The fight that I had with John Duddy, or James McCorry in the story, at Dave Courtney's, is almost blow for blow exactly what happened. But what these are not, some of them, they're not, they're real fucking tear ups. They're real, there's lots of holds and and stuff that goes on, and dirty fighting and stuff. So as you know, you don't actually ever make contact when you're doing stunts.
In an ideal world,
I mean, you do sometimes, but you're always selling the gap, so you have to make sure the camera's in the right position to sell that shot. You hit boom, it looks real if you don't see the fist, and that takes a long time to get that right. So we do one big wide where most of the hits wouldn't sell, and then you go in for the detail, then we go in for obviously some nice close-ups and nice slow motion stuff going on. But Spencer Collins did a great job with most of them. I mean, I fight coordinated some of them because the whole film, a bit like Goodfellas and Casino, has got something I liked about it. It's got a voiceover. And as he's going into his fights, and he goes, and there was the chip shops. There's a fight outside a chip shop. And there was the garages. There's a quick fight outside a garage. And then there was the cop shops. There's a quick fight outside the cop shop. And it's, you know, so there was a lot. I mean, there were very quick fights. There'd be only about 30 seconds, but there is probably, I've lost count. There could be as many as 20 fights in this film.
There's a Facebook page for Angel of the North with a few pictures on it of various people involved.
I think Cyrus now. I mean, I'm now having to employ people to do my social media. I just don't have time anymore. So
yeah,
now takes care of all. It's starting to take care of it all. We need to run pages. There's so many films.
I was trying to see if there was any stills of filming, because Matt Townsend in the chat mentioned that there's some excellent stills for the film.
Oh yeah, there is some incredible stuff, mostly on my phone. But
do you have any on your Facebook from set? I could have a quick look and pull them up.
Yeah, no, I've got tons and tons. So you just probably have to scroll.
I'll have a quick gander and see if
scroll down. I have posted some really amazing ones. I'm just trying to think what the date is.
So for you, let me just stick with casting, which I think is, once you've got a good script, the next most important thing is that you get a good cast. And the director of The Magnificent Seven, one of the things he said, which is actually also a line in the play, as you'll probably remember, is you've always got to get the guts of the cast right, which is the actors around the leads should always be really strong, you know, regardless of what the lead is like. Get the guts of the cast correct. And I've noticed on a lot of the big stuff that's being made these days, they make sure that like, you know, anyone that's got even like 3 or 4 lines is still top notch. When you're casting a piece, a film, let's say, that you're directing, and I mean, on the indie scene, it's often word of mouth and stuff. And sometimes I know people like you and me will already have an actor in mind for a role. But taking all that as a given, at some point you've got to see some new people. So when someone comes into the room, just as a sort of general few do's and don'ts for the benefit of actors watching, what are you looking for and what are the things you want to see?
It's weird that you know, I used to watch things like Hollyoaks, and you can see the actors trying to remember their lines, and you can see the thought process. When you're acting, you're not acting. When someone delivers a line, I need it to feel like it's the first time they've ever said it, and it's come from their heart. Because I actually teach. I haven't done it for a couple of years now, but I used to teach screen acting at Falmouth University, and Dawn French was my boss. Now I went down there once a year, and I do a workshop, and I, as well as teaching, you know, normal acting, I also teach them the dramatic pause and kind of stuff like that. But you know, it's just that natural. Just ignore the camera, pretend the camera's not there. And I mean, it's like we on Give Them Wings. We saw it must have been 150 people for the lead. Some of them were names, good name. I mean, Jamie Bell was one of them. And Daniel Watson walked in. And he got the stutter because Paul has a stutter. And everyone, the money's going, no, we've got to have Jamie Bell. He's a name. I said, no, I want this kid. He'd never done nothing. He'd done a couple of little plays before. And he just blew my mind like Poppy did. It's just that natural, raw talent. When I used to teach acting, I also did a government-funded course for 10 years. I did it. And the government used to pay me quite a lot of money, and I would offer the course for free. And I would call it process. I probably had between 40 and 60 actors a month. And no disrespect to some of them, but probably out of every 60, there were 4 that I thought, wow, these guys are going places. And the weird thing is, all of them now I'm working with, like Katie Sheridan was one on my course. A lot of them have come, Mary Wetherington, and those were I spotted. And now, and years later, I directed them in feature films. So I'm looking for raw talent. And I will say to any actor out there that you have to be able to manage disappointment, because you probably won't get the role. Most people don't. You know, I'm very lucky. I got to a point where I became a go-to villain, and I'd go for an audition, and they go, "Oh, not him," because I got 60% of my auditions. I just get them. I just go, "You fucking what?" And I don't audition anymore. If they want me to book me, I haven't auditioned for 5 years. You know, I just don't do it. So if you want me,
I think if someone's,
I'll do a read through it if I like the script. But you know,
if they're booking you for a villain, I think they know what they're getting now. And
yeah, I'm a bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to villains. But I do villains of every different. I just played a most horrible villain. I think my worst villain was with Howard Ford on Escape, and I play the head of this Albanian sex trafficking firm. I'm not going to tell you how I
was quite surprised by that movie. I was like, I can't remember. I think it was Howard that sent me the invite, and I really love Howard. I think he's he's another one who knows how to package a film. He knows exactly what he's doing, and it's like, this film is this, and you can just look at it and know exactly what type of movie it is. It might not be your cup of tea, but there's a market for whatever film he's making. You're doing the same kind of thing. You're doing a slightly different type of movie, but you know what you're packaging. And but Escape, you know, I saw the poster and I thought, not sure about this. Went to see it and I was immediately engaged. Not everything about it was perfect, but I was immediately engaged. I was never bored in that film. I was never bored. And I think, you know, whether you get to the end of the movie and you think it was great or not, or however you feel, if a film manages to sustain your interest for 90 minutes, that's still an achievement on its own.
Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, I mean, you know, don't spoil it for anyone else, but you know how I die in that.
No, we've mentioned you die in it.
Yeah, but the way I die is what's which I'm not going to spoil. But
let's not.
It did smart a little bit, I will say that. But yeah, you know, I'm terrible. Sometimes I'm so busy I don't get the chance to read the whole screenplay. And Escape, the screenplay was evolving as he was shooting it, so I never read an entire screenplay. But I just, you know, 50 grand for Notre Blonde. I just came on and became this revolting character, doing this. God knows where my accent's from. It's Eastern European something, and. I kept there was ladies sitting either side of me at the screening, and I kept saying, "Look, I'm really sorry." I kept apologizing for my role because I was so disgusting. I am the most horrible. I think it's my nastiest villain to date. I mean, there's another film that still hasn't come out, which is a massive, well, not massive, it's a 5 million budget, and I play the lead in that. It's called Rendell 2, and that was wrapped just before COVID, and it's you know, it's only a 5 million budget, but I'm the lead in that, and I got paid a huge amount of money for that, and I'm looking forward to that coming out, because that's kind of Batman meets Bond meets Deadpool, and I am a proper supervillain, I'm on every page. It's an amazing thing. But yeah, so yeah, I think I've died 85 times now in films. I'm getting up. I'm trying for 100 before I actually die.
You need to make a show reel of your compilation of death scenes. I bet that would be I
should do. I mean, I must cut. I've played sort of 10 lead villains since my last, or 15 since my last reel, but I haven't had a chance to even cut. I just haven't got, my feet don't touch the ground at the moment. It's crazy. I need a holiday desperately.
David, mate, tell me about it. I'll come with you. David asked earlier, do you see yourself or have any ambition to move into the mainstream and away from indie filmmaking? I mean,
I'd love to, because indie filmmaking is so hard. But what's beautiful about indie film is that you have control.
Yeah.
When you're working for a big studio. I mean, I've done the mainstream because I've been in Bond, Mission Impossible, Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts. The list is endless of big Hollywood movies that I've either played a small part in or a decent-ish part. And it's amazing, but the hierarchy is so it's kind of strange there, you know. It's in what I'm doing now, I'm in control of the whole thing. I bring it from the page to the screen. Of course, it's a collaboration, but having control. I'm not saying I'm control freak, but it's nice to be able to see it through with your vision and not constantly have to compromise. Studios water things down so much, you know. They've always got the big, we're going to have the feel good ending, and we're the hero, and it's and the love interest, and it's all of those things that happen. Whereas in an indie film, you can have a surprising end. You don't have to, I mean, the villain seems to always die in my films, but I would like the villain to actually survive one day. The problem with me is I never get to be in the sequels. They always kill me. Which is a bit annoying. But I used to get killed in the first 10 seconds. Now I play the main villain, so I get killed at the end. So I get.
You can always come back as the twin brother. This is Hollywood, baby. Anything can.
Yeah, well, I did a great film called Hackney's Finest. I play Dellski. It's a comedy.
That's the guy. That's directed by Chris Bouchard, who did The Hunt for Gollum, Lord of the Rings fan film.
Yeah, very talented, very, very talented guy, actually, Chris. Lovely guy, Chris. And there is talk of the second one, and I'm playing Dellski's brother.
I've never been able to. I've looked for that film on Blu-ray, and it's got an actor in it who was in Game of Thrones, who played one of the guys on the wall. I'm trying to remember his name. I really like him as an actor. I'm just trying to look him up on IMDb now, and I've been trying to find that film for forever, and I've just never been able to get it anywhere.
I don't know. I think I've got a copy.
Well, you'll have to lend it to me so I can have a look at it.
But, just if you want some stills, I just looked at my wall. If you go to October the 21st and October the 16th, there's some really good behind the scenes. They're not just pictures of us holding up the clapperboard. They're proper behind the scenes of the action, shot by a really good still photographer. So it's October the 16th on my wall, and October 21st. I'll
show that in just a second. Let's give this a plug, as you mentioned it. This is Hackney's Finest. The actor I'm talking about is the guy with the scars on his face, and that's you on the left, top left, I think.
Yeah, that's me, Dellski. Yeah. It's great fun. It's a proper comedy. I blow myself up in it. And I throw a grenade through the letterbox, and then someone throws it back in, and I come out.
It's kind of it's a lock stock kind of crime type comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great fun, and Nate, who plays the lead, who was actually the agent that fucked up Mission Impossible. So I love it. I sacked him for being my agent. I still love him as a mate, but he was trying his hand at being an agent as well. And I said, dude, don't do it. You can't have a coke habit and be an agent. You just don't organise things, But yeah, that was great.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah. So that was no budget. I don't even remember I got paid for that. I think I did get a little bit, but I was getting 75 quid a day or something. But it was great fun to work on. So I played.
Here's a good question for you while I'm looking for that thing on your wall. Keith says, if they make a movie about your life, and let's assume that this is 50 years from now, who do you think of the actors coming up now would play you? That's a good. Somebody's asked me that question many times, and I always say get Quentin Tarantino to play.
Well, you look like Quentin Tarantino.
I know. I get told that all the time. And I've met him twice, and when I met him the second time,
I'm just trying to think of any ugly baldies that might be able to do it. It's a weird. I've got quite a distinctive face, so I don't know. I'd love to know. I mean, the weird thing about my life, I don't know if I've made a pilot for a modern day pirate film. I own a battleship. I've got a 250-foot, fully gunned Swedish minesweeper, which is parked in a military base.
That's why we have and pirate. I'm surprised you haven't made a film on that battleship yet.
Well, no, we have. That was the whole plan, but it's a 60 million budget movie. It's a massive movie. It's got super yachts, and it's huge. And I'd still love to make it. I was trying to get the money for that, and I said earlier on, you can't make a film till you've made a film. So I'm almost at the point. One way I might be too old to play the character, and I might have to cast somebody else. But where if you type in, guys, Monte Carlo pirate into YouTube, you will see me sailing my boat into the Monte Carlo Grand Prix just prior to my arrest. I spent 4 days in a Monte Carlo prison because they asked me, please don't sail that rusty, horrible battleship into the Monte Carlo Grand Prix again. And I did it 5 times. And then they threw me in jail for 3 days, which is quite funny. But Monte Carlo,
did they serve caviar in the Monte Carlo?
Yeah, the food was great. I said, I don't mind it. It's like a hotel. I said, is there any chance for a glass of wine with my dinner? They said, get out of it, Mr. Cronin. But the boat blew up on the way. I had to helicopter a new engine in a forced 11 storm. I mean, the stories behind the things that I've done. And before I was a an actor. I got stopped. I started being an actor. I got walking down the port. So I used to own a night. I was in a rock band called the Marionettes for 20 years.
Yeah, somebody asked a question about that earlier. Let me find it. Was something to do with, was it Nirvana or?
I did a world tour, a European tour, sorry, with Nirvana.
Yeah.
We did over 2,000 shows. We were kind of goth metal band.
Were you their support act, were you?
Yeah, we did a festival tour called Zillow with Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Sisters of Mercy. And the weird thing is we were on at 12 o'clock. These guys were on at at 10 o'clock. And there was 200,000 people at some of these shows. A very, very quick story. So we're on our way to a gig in the Lorelei Rock. It's a huge amphitheatre along the Rhine in this kind of amazing, almost like Roman amphitheatre. We were meant to be on at 1 o'clock. There's probably 10,000 people in when we're on, but when Nirvana are on, it's a full house. This particular day, we're driving down the motorway. I've got this kind of tank girl, punky driver. A bumblebee has flown in through the window, gone down her top and stung her on the fanny. She's rolled the van. She's rolled the van with all the equipment in it. We're in a ditch like this. Right? It's chaos. And then finally it takes 2 or 3 hours. We've missed our midday slot. It's 2 PM. We finally get a truck that drags but miraculously the van was all right. And so we corrected the van and bloody had it started. We then drive to the gig. I'm in tears. It's the biggest show of my life. We've missed our slot. It's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. I've turned up. I'm crying like a baby. And I missed my slot. And Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder are sitting backstage. And they said, "What's the matter, man?" I said, "I missed my show." And Kurt goes to Eddie and he whispers to him. He goes, "Sean, I'll give you 20 minutes before we go on." So normally I play for an hour early on. We played 5 songs directly between Pearl Jam and Nirvana. Remember, we were number 2 in the German charts at the time. We weren't as big as Nirvana, but we were big in Germany. And we got one song that goes, and I start singing that, and the whole place goes. And I think we played 5, maybe 6 songs, literally to 250,000 people directly before
that
Nirvana. That was just an amazing buzz. So ending up in a ditch with a bumblebee sting turned out to be serendipitous. So anyway, so I did the band for 20 years. Then I left it. All my band members, I'm the only surviving member. They're all dead from drugs and alcohol. I mean, they used to get wankered every night. I'd get wankered once a week because I knew I was a front man, so I had to keep it together. And then I came back and I built a recording studio. And then ultimately ended up getting roped into building a nightclub. So I owned one of the biggest nightclubs in the West End, 4,500 capacity.
Which club was that?
It's called Club Wild. It was behind the Masonic Lodge in Holborn. And we had the dance floor took 1,500 people. Over the whole building, you could get 4,000 people in.
Right.
I was a business partner with one of the biggest crime families in England, and I became a real gangster for a while. I mean a real gangster. The things that went on, I don't even want to talk about. But luckily, after my doorman got shot in the testicles for the second time by this particular crime family, I managed to get rid of this place because it was killing me. And I posted my phone and my keys to this bloody club through, and I never went back because it was. And I lost millions because I was a millionaire then. I built this club. It cost me 1.6 million to take it out, and you left it. I had no money. I went and hid on a boat because I still owed the security firm 150 grand, and they were trying to kill me. Another story about that. Later on, I bumped into the guy that I owed the money to, and he, I was in a nightclub. I went, "Oh my God, there he is! He's 7 foot tall." But anyway, so how I started in acting, I've been in hiding for a couple of years, and I'm walking down the Portobello Road, and this woman comes up to me. She goes, "You look really evil. Do you want to be in The Mummy?" And I went, "What?" And 2 days later, I found myself shaved from head to foot, including my eyebrows and my pubes and my legs, painted gold, wearing a nappy. And I'm on the set of Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. Stephen Summers directs.
Yeah.
And I'm basically a glorified extra. I mean, I won't walk on. You think you get 250 quid a day because they've shaved your eyebrows off and painted you gold and made you wear a nappy. And but I walked in and they built ancient Egypt. And it's $200 million movie, and I'm like, wow.
Was that filming in Pinewood? Was it?
That was at Shepperton.
Shepperton, right?
And then I got a little spot on Harry Potter and on Star Wars and The Mummy, Sorry, and The World Is Not Enough, James Bond. And I got quite a big, even though I was only an extra in that, they brought me forward because of my silly face. And I became Renard's main henchman in that. And I ended up, I must have done 2 months on that. And I got to know Pierce Brosnan, Robbie Coltrane, Robbie Carlyle, got to know some great people. In fact, Robbie Coltrane smoked all my cigarettes.
Pierce is supposed to be lovely, isn't he?
He was lovely anyway, so I'm a glorified extra, but I'm on it every day, so they know me, you know.
Yeah.
So and between takes, Pierce Brosnan's playing backgammon with various members of the crew and other cast members, and I'm really good at backgammon. So I sort of nervously, I'm in my 20s, and I nervously went up to Mr. Bond, can I play you at backgammon? He said, nah. Anyway, 2 days later, he's gone, come on then, let's have a game. And I beat him by 1 point. So I've now got it on my CV that I have beaten James Bond at backgammon. So he's a lovely guy, and he just recently lost his wife on that one. So
that was a tough time for him. David Macy says Richard Carter should play you.
Richard could.
I know who Richard is, and he's a lovely guy, and he had a he had a small role in June. I spotted him when he was in June, and I was at the premiere of June, and I was and Richard didn't get a ticket, which I was like, dude, why are you not here? I think I've got the pictures that you wanted me to show. I think I did show some of them.
To Matt Townsend's up there. Matt's got a wonderful screenplay that we're going to be. I'm not going to divulge it yet, but that we are. It's called Mia. That we are going to be hopefully shooting next year. I've got 2 more in a row before that, but hopefully I'm going to get that one financed. So so these are some of the stills with our lovely ring girl. So stop there. So the guy there, that's Steve Collins on the left. That's Spencer Collins.
That's Spencer in the middle, isn't it? Spencer in the middle.
That guy there, Terry Ellis. Google him. He did one of the biggest data criminal multi-million-pound heists called Verizon, and he stole millions. And it's an amazing story. That screenplay's also being written by Cy.
Right.
And that is that's another one that I'll be directing, which is a big heist movie. It's a very, very clever story. There's John Duddy as James McCrory. So ironically, the fight, so this stuff, I think this is from Dave Courtney's place. This is Dave Courtney's place, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
that's me playing Jason Young there. Now, James McCrory, at that fight, turned up. He was meant to fight, and he'd forgotten about it. He's in Sheffield, or New York. He was in Sheffield in a pub, coked out of his head, pissed as a fart, totally forgotten. He's got Jason Young flying in from America for a title fight, and it actually was Brendan, the real Brendan, that phoned him up and said, "Where the fuck are you?" He goes, "Oh, I'm in the pub." He goes, "Which pub?" He goes, "I'm in Sheffield. I'm in a pub anyway." So we managed to send a cab to pick him up and drive him all the way to the fight. And he turned up at this fight totally off his head. He'd been drinking and doing drugs all day. And then he walks in and wins the fight.
Some people might say that he had an illegal advantage there.
I don't know if there's much drug
difficult to say. Matt's looking forward to working with you.
I reread Matt's screenplay over the weekend. It's a masterpiece. It's won, 50 or 100 awards for best screenplay. But it's just trying to get all of these in a row. But say for me, it's making sure that the films I'm making, because my investment might stop if I don't get the money back. So just for anybody out there that's trying to make films, trying to get, that statistic, 95% don't get made. The 5% that do, 95% don't make any money. So identifying an exit strategy, and in the indie level, you've got to keep the budgets low. You've got to keep them below 200 grand, really, to have a chance of wiping their nose, because it's all very well making a wonderful movie, but if no one knows you've made it, it's pointless. And what sadly happened with Give Them Wings is Paul Hodgson was the main producer on it, and he's not experienced. And bless him, I wasn't the producer on that. I was, but I wasn't. He wanted control. It's his life story, and he signed with a distribution company that gave him 50%. None of those investors will ever see their money back. They won't.
Yeah,
he signed with a sales agent whose name shall remain nameless, who is a criminal, and he nicks the money. And it's like, you know, so I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but that's what finding an exit strategy, and also finding people that will get your film out there that will not steal all the money. And that's a really minefield.
Let's talk about that, because you've nicely segued into it, and I don't want to keep you on for too much longer. There's only one other topic I'd like to ask you about as we reached the 90-minute mark, but I'm happy to keep going. What is the... Because I had this. I had this with one of my films. Somebody had the rights to it for ages. They did absolutely nothing with it. I took the rights back, and then by then, you know, a film is considered old. So it's devalued and this kind of thing. The way I see the model changing is it seems to me like the middlemen gradually are being pushed out, and filmmakers are having more control over what happens to their product and are getting more of what they deserve. Is that fair? Or
I think it's fair, but the problem is, one of the big problems is there's so much choice. There is so much choice. So, you know, letting people know. So if you get the films on your platforms yourself, how do you let the world know that they're there? This is the problem. There's so much choice. But a lot of these small distribution companies take your film, offer you 50-50. They might do a premiere. They spend bugger all on marketing. They stick it on the digital shelf. They take their marketing money back first, and they take 50%. Right before the investors see a penny. And surely that's wrong. The guys that have put the money in need their money back first.
They should be paid back first. They also often inflate their expenses as well.
Yeah, it's called Hollywood accounting. They, you know, they'll say we spent £2 million on posters, and they didn't. They spent 500 quid. So what I've done with our kid, I've got a wonderful aggregator. So I'm on an 80-20 split. The platforms will take what they take, and it's 25 or 30%. I'm not sure exactly. Each platform's slightly different. But the aggregator will get it up there. I've got an 85-15 or an 80-20 split on some of them, 85-15 in my favor. So that becomes the 100%. I then give 70% of that to the filmmakers. We've got an app where they can log in real time and see I've done 300 downloads of my movie today. I've made $4,000 or whatever it might be. So it's proper, transparent, or honest distribution where you will, you know, every 30 days you can log in, you download your own money. There it is. You can log into the bank account, take your money. There it is. So because I've been ripped off on every film I've ever made, most of my friends have. So I thought, you know, I still want to try. I mean, I'm about to do another very high concept vampire movie called Drained, fully financed, which starts on the 19th of February through most of March. Nothing like both of it. It's a vampire love story. It's very, very, very high production value. American lead actress. It's so I'm hoping that will get picked up by a Netflix or become an Amazon original. I don't know, but it's a minefield how not to get ripped off. It's very different. Difficult. So you can find companies like the Movie Partnership, which I know are good. There's another one called Film. I can't remember the name of it. I'll post it later. What are they called? Film.
What do you think of Film 101?
101 Films.
Yeah.
Everybody's reputation seems to precede them. I know the guys there quite well. I've had some very interesting meetings with them, but I'm not sure that anybody is really that honest. It's very, very hard to know unless you have full access to their accounts. You don't know what deals are being done. Hi, sweetheart. I'm still on this call. Can I call you back in a bit? Okay, bye.
Pop you out then, but yeah, no problem.
It's very, very difficult to know. So I've created Magnificent Distribution. I've only done one film on it now, which is Our Kid. Yeah. But as long as the films are to a standard, they will be on a film by film basis. The aggregator will have to like them as well. They will have to be to a standard. They're not vanity projects. I'm not saying they need big names, but they need to be polished. Yeah. I would expect the filmmakers to have some money for marketing. I will spend 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 grand on marketing as well. Not a huge amount, but I will get it out there. I will get it in everybody's feed on most social media. I would normally pay for a premiere and get the film out there, and I'll employ a publicist, and we've got a publicist on on our kid. We're getting lots of daytime TV and plenty of radio and stuff. So that's what I can offer. But again, the films have to. So I am, you know, people, if they've got a decent film, by all means, show it to me. I won't take everything. It's got to be good. But if the films are good, then I can help people get them out there.
So my last question to you, and I mean, look, you and I could easily talk for another couple of hours. So I hope you'll come back on again. And, you know, when Angel of the North is getting ready for a release, do come back and, you know, let's talk more. But and this is a question I try and ask everybody. Sometimes I forget. I mean, you're a dad. You've got 2 young girls. I guess they're teenagers now. Last time I met them, they were quite tiny. But how do you, you know, and you've got a partner as well. How do you balance? Because making films is a huge commitment. It's almost like a 24/7 job, especially if you're juggling as many balls as yourself. Plus, also you have an established acting career, and occasionally a nice job might come along, and you're probably going to want to take it if it's one of a big paying job. How do you balance everything? How do you balance being a dad with a relationship and
well, the difficulty of it, I have spent most of the years of bringing the children up without a partner.
Yeah,
my girls have never met their mother, apart from briefly on exit. I mean, very quickly, funny story. This thing on my face was.
Is it a funny story? Are you sure?
Funny story. So basically, you've not heard it. So
I think I have, but for the benefit of the viewers.
Basically, so I had a much younger girlfriend, the mother of my child. I wasn't thinking, you know, she was a good 15, 20 years younger than me. I was thinking with a certain organ rather than my brain. And we had 2 beautiful girls. I was in love, really in love with this girl. And after we had the girls, she breastfed and her boobs turned into kind of tea bags. She lost her rather pertinent breast. And she said, oh, can I get some fake boobs? So I saved up a load of money. I wasn't wealthy in those days. And I bought her a pair of fake boobs. Within 3 weeks of me buying her the fake boobs, she buggered off with somebody else. Came back a month later. I said, where the fuck have you been? We had an argument. She threw an ashtray at me, did this. The next day I went for an audition with the Scarface villain in James Bond, got the job. I said, you can take that text. But she buggered off. I've heard from her once in 15 years. About 6 years after she left, she wrote an email saying, I'm really sorry, can I come back? I ignored it. So it was very, very difficult juggling, I was taking the kids to school, to and from school every day, and then trying to do films. I mean, they've been on film sets. They've met Tom Cruise.
Would you bring them with you, or what?
They were there on most of Mission Impossible. They were there. They were in my train. They don't even remember. They were like, when is it? That's like 7 or 8 years ago now. They were.
Would they have like an on-set? Would they have had an on-set tutor or something? Or
no. I had a nanny in though, because I was getting good money, so I had a nanny and I was bringing them to set. And
right.
And luckily, the whole thing amazingly shot in the summer holidays. So it was their entire summer holidays was spent on the set of Mission Impossible in my trailer most of the time. Not all the time. They only probably came down 3 times a week, but
sure.
They loved it. And I mean, I put them through a meat grinder and turned them into hamburgers on one film. Bless them. So one of my daughters is now at rugby. She won an academic scholarship to rugby, so she's at full-time boarding school. And the other one is very ditzy and arty and keeps failing to go to school, but she's coming on Drain. She's coming on as assistant production designer. She wants to be in film. So she thinks Daddy is her automatic entry into the business. So she's kind of, yeah. And it's been sometimes hard, sometimes impossible to juggle. I've kind of really accelerated my career now because they are big now and they can be left at home, and they do have their own lives. And she's at boarding school, so I've got a lot busier now because directing film. I mean, I'm away for 5 weeks on Drained. I'm away 5 weeks in central London. We've hired a big house, which is the main location, and I'm away for 5 weeks. You know, so it's been very, 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 very difficult. I've also got a small Chihuahua, which is also quite.
Yeah, difficult. Wawa. How is Wawa?
I think he did a poo in your office once, didn't he?
Well, no, you were worried about that, but we managed to avoid it. So, well, no, I do remember Wawa. Still going strong, I hope.
He is. He's 11 or 12 now, still going very, very strong. But he's not where he is at the moment. He's in the health. But yeah. So this here, I've got a blue screen studio in there. I've got this is a full edit suite in here, and I've got like a blue screen, a couple couple of red cameras in there. I built this blue screen. I've never used it. I just thought, I want a blue room. And
I'm sure there'll be a time when somebody will go, if only we had a little blue room, and you'll go, you know what? Back at my funny farm.
You self-take. I've got two edit suites in here, and there's like my PA sits there, my receptionist sits there for during the days. So I've got a little production company here, but so it's been a journey with the kids. It's a shame now they've grown up so quick. They used to be really interested in film, and now the other ones, they wouldn't even come to the premiere. No, I don't want to go and see a bloody kitchen sink drama, Dad. I want to hang out with my boyfriend, or I want to sit on bloody TikTok. Which is, I've got to that age now. So it's again, I've got other children as well. I've got other kids that have flown the nest. I've got a 30-year-old and a 27-year-old son as well. And my daughter's making more than me. She makes about 50 grand a month selling scrunchies. It's called The Good Squish. They're giant scrunchies, and it's called The Good Squish. Look it up, The Good Squish. And she's on the front cover of Vogue, and all these sort of influencers and celebrities are wearing them, and she's so successful. It's like she used to nick money off me, and it's like now I'm like, do you want to invest in a film, Daddy? No, Dad.
Did you find it easy to? Well, not that's a silly question. Did you? I mean, so clearly you were able somehow to strike a work, play, life, family balance, because you seem to have. I've met your girls. Your girls were great. They clearly.
I don't know how I did it really. I basically, when I'm getting paid, I'm being paid, so I would employ a nanny, or I had helpful neighbours that would look after them for a few days, and then I'd get people to bring them to set at the weekends and stuff like that. And it's been really, really, really difficult. I mean, a lot of them. Molly, I shot Bogeyville in my house, so that was an easier one to do.
Indeed.
So it was but so it'll be the order of it. So our kid is out now. It's on all the platforms now.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and various others.
Google, I think it's coming out on Sky Store as well. But Amazon's the main one that we try and point to, because we get a better deal from them. We get the best remuneration. But you've got to remember, of a £4 or £5 download, we're probably getting £1.50, £2, if that. So
I'm surprised. To be honest, I'm surprised you're getting that much.
Yeah, and it's very, very, very hard to make your money back in film. So you've got to get it out there, and you've all got to help each other. It's a community. Everyone share each other's work and help them. So because you can't get, investors won't reinvest if you don't get their money back, and it's
No, indeed, and you need to do that to get them to make the next film. Well, look, Sean.
So just some final say. So, and then Bogeyville's coming out. Bogeyville's coming out on Valentine's Day, and then Angel of the North will probably be sort of middle spring, early summer. So that's kind of what's going on. Then I'm doing the Michael Watson one, which is a much bigger budget, $2.5 million. True story of Michael Watson, who was put in a coma by Eubank. I've been developing that for 5 years now.
I remember, that's been going a while.
But now I've got the people behind me to make it, so it's taken me a long time. So guys, never give up, never surrender. It's a very difficult business, but you will not succeed if you do give up. You've got to keep going. Ignore all the haters. Ignore all the negativity. Manage the disappointment. Manage the people will turn you away and say no, and you're not very good. Just ignore them. Keep going. Hone your craft and do it as properly as you can, and be nice. Be nice as possible if you can.
Fantastic advice there. And this channel is all about supporting independent creators, big and small, as well as talking to legends in the industry. So if you're someone who's got a project of interest, get in touch with us. Please do spread the word about the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to make it my mission to interview somebody in a position on every role in a set between now and the end of next year. And I've done quite a few already. I even want to interview a caterer. So I'm going to do everybody on a set before the end of the year. We've got some other great guests coming in between now and Christmas, including two directors that have done big Hollywood films. I can't say who, but I'm just waiting to lock down the dates. But it's great that they have agreed to come on, and plenty of other people besides. I'm also hoping to get Peter McDonald back to re-record parts of his interview, who directed Rambo 3, and of course he was also the first, the second unit director on Bridge Too Far, and also Zulu Dawn. So we had a really great interview with him, but a lot of it got censored because we showed so many clips that YouTube hacked it to bits. And I had the same problem with Dan Styles. Is I've only just finished getting it back up on. This has been fantastic, Sean. I'd love to have you back on again. Please do check out Sean's work. There's already a load of links down there. If they're not there now, I'll put them there later, and you can find out about.
Yeah, I'm going to share this. I'm hoping that people that are not online now, I'm going to share it everywhere. So I
appreciate that.
So the moment we finish, this is still up to people.
It will stay. It stays up on the channel forever, and it's under a list called Industry Interviews. And you are number 45, and I've only been doing the channel just over a year and about 3 months. So in the current form that it's in, it was just kind of something we were doing in lockdown before that. But in the way it's shaped,
I've known Lance for many years, so. It's a great honour to be interviewed by you, because you're also a great director, a fabulous writer in your own right. So,
oh, bless you. That's very kind. Hopefully, might get to make something together one day. You never know.
Well, let's see. I just got to make sure I get my investors' money back now. Otherwise, I'll be gardening soon.
Yeah, and you've got about 30 projects. Don't work too hard, because I don't want you to lose all your hair. So. On that bombshell, just remains for me to say thanks to Sean for giving up part of his afternoon and coming in, talking to us. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We've had great interaction throughout. I'm sure that this is going to be highly viewed. David Macy's already said it's his favourite industry interview. Yeah, there you go. So,
yeah, David, nice to meet you, man.
And Matt. I think David works in the industry. You're going to bump into him. Helen Finch has offered to write your biography, but I already said I would do that for Sean. So, and I do that for a living. I have
right, brilliant, guys. Thank you so much. So please check out Our Kid is the most important one at the moment. It's out there. We need to try and make. Sadly, our investor's got a terminal illness, so we're trying to basically get the money back ASAP.
All right. Well, let's support Our Kid. It's out on Amazon and various other platforms now. Coming up next, I think I'm going to be doing a review of the new season of The Crown tonight, a short review.
Oh, wow.
And then I've got a discussion with some panelists about the new season of The Crown.
Is it out now?
It's already out. Oh, yeah, I watched 3 episodes before you came on.
Oh God, I didn't know that. I love The Crown.
And it's the season that I personally lived through. I was in Hyde Park during Diana's funeral. I was one of the people that stood up and led one of the standing ovations, and there were six standing ovations in the park where everybody got up, applauded, and sat down again. And it always kind of annoyed me.
Right, I'm going home to binge. I'm going to go in the house and binge.
Yeah, it's an incredible show, and I look forward to talking about it more on the channel. And anyone that's not been to the channel before, in addition to the industry interviews, we do reviews of old films, and I also have a section called The Best of British. And we talk about the best stuff, that the British drama shows and films. So do check that out. I did a great stream on Our Friends in the North recently. Okay, so that's it from me and Sean. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all again real soon.
Thank you.